Hi, everybody. It's Pastor Lillard from Emmanuel. Hope you're well. So, this Sunday, we're going to start our 3-week series on radical giving. And the first gospel we're going to deal with this week of the three in a line is the Good Samaritan. And to give you an idea, because I don't want to assume that you just know about it, is that a lawyer comes up to Jesus, and that's kind of always an ominous sign. It's kind of like, in a cowboy movie, you can hear the music and then there's thunder because a lawyer comes up and tries to put Jesus to the test and says, good teacher, can you tell me, how do I inherit eternal life? In other words, how am I saved? And Jesus kind of sees this coming, right? He's seen this movie before and says, well, what's written? And he goes, well, what's written is you are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, which was, by the way, a great answer, because the lawyer knew exactly what was going to be said or asked. And so Jesus says, well, okay, that's great. But the intentions of the lawyer are quite clear because he doesn't end. It's not like he just asked because he wanted to know and then he was going to do it. He had scent about him that was going after blood. And so he said, to further justify himself, it says in the Bible, but to give, more credence to the fact that he was trying to put Jesus into kind of a corner, says, well, who is my neighbor? So it's redacted. He knew, but love your neighbor. And then he just said, well, exactly who is my neighbor? And then hoping that Jesus would give an incorrect or wrong answer and he could just, he could rifle him with that. And then Jesus tells the story of the Good Samaritan. A person was going down the road, he's injured, and then 3 people come by him. One's a Levite, one's a priest, and one's a Samaritan. Now, this last week, if you were in worship, the text that I had as well, I was out at the Park Church, the text that was here as well, that Jesus was going to Jerusalem and he sent his disciples ahead to ask if they could go through this town in Samaria, and they said no. And so I always will say that Jesus is always going somewhere purposefully. That when you read the connective tissue that is the gospel, Jesus is always taking something from back here and adding to it all this successive approximations. Because last week, the people in Samaria said, you can't go through because you're going to Jerusalem. We don't like people who are Jewish, so you can't go. Well, in the next text, we have Jesus telling a story where the people of Samaria are the heroes. And I just think you can't make that up. That is so awesome. Because he says, well, the priest goes by, the Levite goes by. They were by law supposed to help this person. The person from Samaria that was a villain in last week's gospel, all of a sudden becomes a hero. And Jesus says the most unlikely of these helps the one who's lost. In fact, not only did he bandage him up, he took him to the Super 8 or the Hilton and put him up and paid for it. That's what I'm talking about. And actually, it's not everyone helping one another, but also seeing the people that we see as the most unlikely to be the hero in the story, in Jesus' story, will likely be the hero. So I want you to think about the people you come upon, or Costco or wherever else. How do we take this text and realize that we are to love the Lord with all our heart, but also as our neighbor? And who's our neighbor? Well, that's everyone. I mean, that's everyone. In season, out of season, here, there, everywhere in between. So more about that and radical giving when you come and worship. In the meantime, be well. God bless.